My favorite book series from my childhood is A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. I started reading it in kindergarten and would periodically reread the assortment of novels until I was in 5th grade. There's something very magical about what Snicket's created here. He makes a world that's extremely friendly to the average young reader while never talking down to them, which is a balance that's extremely hard to maintain. This story could have been very good if written by any other author in a more adult format, but Snicket not only kept his books to a kid-friendly level that actively encouraged them to engage deeper in a more mature story that's directly tailored to them, he wrote 13 fantastic books. He's the type of author that can stop the story dead in its tracks and teach you what the word simmering means, with the direct dictionary definition, and then draw you back in with the nail-biting tension regarding the ridiculously high stakes of pasta that requires attention, without breaking the pace at all.
In Book 2, The Reptile Room, there's murder that has a harrowing gravity to it, and barely 10 pages later, there's a warning from Lemony Snicket, which reads, "We all know, of course, that we should never, ever, 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 ever."
It's a story of misfortune, of wacky hijinks, of solutions that shouldn't work but do, of espionage and betrayal. It's very tongue-in-cheek, very self-aware, but always taking itself seriously. Lemony Snicket even includes himself as a very important part of this story, or at least in its past. The series has even been expanded with prequel novels where Snicket stars as a teenage detective. There's also another book that has no real plot but a lot of lore, the unauthorized biography, for the diehard fans. The story starts off with a fairly simple plot. The three Baudelaire children, that's Violet, Klaus, and Sonny Baudelaire, lose their parents in a mysterious mansion fire, and they're sent to live with their closest living relative, the evil Count Olaf, who comes up with conniving and far-fetched plots to steal the enormous fortune that the Baudelaires left for their children, which Violet will be granted access to when she turns of age. The format of the story is a constant cycle of the children running to new wacky guardians, only for Count Olaf to invade their homes with a costume and a scheme and force them to flee again.
As the dog and rabbit chase goes on, perceptive reading analysts will begin to notice hints here and there that everything is more intricately connected than you realize. Count Olaf's associates are lurking and disguising themselves around every corner. There's an uncanny eye symbol that seems to appear everywhere. The other children that the Baudelaires befriend also have parents that died in a mysterious mansion fire.
No, don't look at me like that. Here, seriously, look. In Book 5, The Austere Academy, we're introduced to Duncan and Isadora Quagmire, two siblings and a gaggle of triplets, the third of which having supposedly died in a mysterious mansion fire that also took the Quagmire parents. In fact, the Quagmires are also particularly rich in assets, the Quagmire sapphires, which they'll inherit when they turn of age. It was their introduction that really made it click for me when I was a kid. There's far more beneath the surface than I realized. Coincidences were not. There was no way the other orphans were going through the same thing in the same place at the same time by happenstance. The triplets actually take it upon themselves to research Count Olaf, and they end up getting extremely valuable information. However, the Baudelaires never receive it. Count Olaf actually ends up kidnapping the triplets for their own enormous fortune. Here, see? And when Klaus tries and fails to save them, there's only one clue that Duncan can encourage him to investigate before being driven away. VFD. The rest of the series shifts in tone and central plot dramatically. Count Olaf is still after that enormous fortune, but it's evolved into a hunt for the kidnapped triplets and also for VFD and its relation to what's happening to the Baudelaires. VFD is not limited to one thing. In itself, the term VFD is a code. In fact, while VFD will continue to be pressed regularly and actively, the Baudelaires, and therefore the reader, do not learn what it's supposed to mean until Book 10, The Slippery Slope.
Of course, do three letters have a correct definition? That question is definitely begged. In Book 6, The Ersatz Elevator, the Baudelaires enter an auction because Count Olaf is in town, and one of the items for sale is labeled VFD. Surely this familiar phrase will lead them closer to the triplets, right? Well, turns out they ended up winning a large box of very fancy doilies. The triplets were hidden inside a different item, a large statue of a red herring. Very funny, Snicket. The doilies were a calculated distraction, courtesy of Count Olaf.
In this moment, VFD takes on a whole new meaning. It's no longer just something to be investigating, but something to be prudent and reserved around. It can be just as large a distraction as a clue. In the very next book, The Vile Village, The Baudelaires choose to go to a town known to them as VFD, because surely it must be of some use to them. However, it turns out to be the completely unrelated Village of Foul Devotees. Later in the series, we learn about the Volunteers Fighting Disease, who turn out to be nothing more than just workers at a hospital. However, while these things seem like random coincidences, they do seem to have some sort of inner working that's connected, and the Baudelaires seem to be on the heels of Count Olaf every single time, or vice versa. While none of these phrases are directly connected, there's an understanding that they come from the same origin point and may lead to similar findings. As the acronym continues to appear more and more frequently as the series goes on, there's an understanding that VFD is somehow at the center of everything that goes on in this world. Lemony Snicket paints a world where anything and everything needs to be scrutinized. Something as simple as very fresh dill sitting on a fridge shelf implies that there's a clue to look for from your brethren there. The simple overuse of the acronym VFD made me a far more active and engaged reader. When you're scared to miss something, you catch every detail. I was shocked when, upon rereading the Ersatz Elevator, I learned that someone actually told the Baudelaires that very fancy doilies were going to be at the auction, and they just weren't paying close attention.
The repeated use of VFD fascinated me as a kid. It felt like the kind of hidden spy secrets that you'd expect from a James Bond movie when you get old enough to watch it, but perfectly ready and accessible for kids. When something as simple as a closed entryway is referred to as a vernacularly fastened door, I'm forced to wonder why the term VFD is so important here, why it couldn't have just been referred to as a door. Eventually, I gathered that it was code talk, which is everywhere in this book series if you know what you're looking for. The fact that the letters VFD were present meant there was a message being hidden in the subtext. Now there were new questions. Who in the room was the code being communicated to? Was it a threat or a signal of truce? Was something being hidden or communicated?
Over time, and especially on my second and third reads, the term VFD became one of my favorite aspects of the novels. It was my first real introduction to subtle messaging. Just starting 3 words with 3 letters in a certain order was a direct clue for people with the ears to notice it. It had me going up to my friends on the playground and saying, "Hey, anyone having a very fun day?" and looking suspiciously around for anyone who may understand that I'm trying to find my people. Exactly like what VFD were trying to do. Wait, have I explained what VFD even is yet? The Volunteer Fire Organization. They're a secret spy group, but that's way too much to get into right now. I still remember how excited I was when, in Book 10, The Slippery Slope, the Baudelaires and their allies begin to catch on to the code talk side of VFD and use it themselves, with phrases such as vinegar-flavored donuts and vein-fat dictator. It was like I was finally cluing in too, like there was some secret in-group that I had been trailing and collecting scraps of evidence regarding, and I had finally earned my way into it, within the canon of the books itself, allowed to glimpse firsthand at the secrets of this unfortunate world.
At the end of the series, literally in the book The End, Klaus jokes about the trio's very flavorless diet, and it's funny, not just because their diet has no flavor, but for reasons I can't explain to you unless you're a part of the in-group as well. Something as simple as the repeated use of 3 letters kept readers like me perplexed, riveted, and absorbed, taking an already great children's series and cementing it in history as a must-read full of depth and wonder.
Hey there. I recently moved for college, and while I didn't bring any of my set with me, I did bring all of the video files that I was going to use to finish this YouTube video. All except one. Somehow I lost the video for the transition scene between one topic and the next. I don't know how I managed to lose exactly one video file, but I'm grateful that it was at least one that wasn't super important. So this would have been a more fluid transition, but we're talking about 21 Pilots now. Hope you enjoy! For those of you unfamiliar with 21 Pilots, they make fantastic music. I've been proudly obsessed with them for the better part of 5 years, and have been consistently impressed with their output, each album learning from and improving upon the last. Yes, even scaled and icy, it's the best one, fight me. The driving force behind 21 Pilots is undoubtedly their community, their unwaveringly loyal fan base. Every ounce of what Tyler Joseph and Josh Dunn put out into the world is for these people of roaring admiration, and they'll tell you as much. Their 2015 album, Blurry Face, was almost exclusively referred to as your album, as in our album, the fandom that made it possible. In fact, in Fairly Local, the lead single for Blurry Face, Tyler Joseph calls out to his people directly.
Even if I click with a pick and the people with a vote, it's a few the proud and the emotional. Yo, you, bulletproof and black like a funeral. The world around us is burning, but we're so cold. It's a few the proud and the emotional.
It's hard not to feel like one of the few, the proud, and the emotional when you're a fan of this band. Every single person at every single venue seems to know the lyrics to every single song and screams them like it's their last day on Earth.
I'm still learning what this is.
It's obvious when you watch the boys perform at rambunctious arenas with every ounce of effort that they can muster that the shows and music they put out there are for us, not for them. They write music with the intention of playing it live, and they do so for our sake. It's a really powerful and rare connection between a band and its audience. When Tyler sings about mental health issues, about looking for faith, about not fitting in, he's singing to and for his people. Blurryface, the album, is about the clash between Tyler and the physical manifestations of his negative thoughts and emotions, Blurryface, the entity. The album represented the struggle that Tyler was going through that no one else could see, and that through producing Blurryface, he no longer had to go through alone, because he had found us. A struggle that, perhaps by personifying it, he could use to reach out and connect to you specifically. Then the 2018 album Trench came out, and flipped everything on its head. Trench took 21 Pilots fans by storm. Recorded in secret, it's an incredibly ambitious concept album that set out to, quote, tell people who Blurryface is and where he came from. That's page 109, cite your sources. Before we knew anything about the album, fans had found a secret website on the band's store page. Dimaorg.info led to a violation code, a cryptic message about how no one can know you are here, and with random capitalized letters throughout that spelled East is up. Thus began the online hunt that would compound into a massive puzzle with regular amendments, full of other mini-puzzles and events along the way, working alongside the music to build a large narrative that's still ongoing to this day. That was true when I wrote that, back in August, but the new album has come out since then. It was really good, and the story is definitely over, so maybe next time I won't procrastinate for 6 months before making the video. Back to it. Not long after finding the first website, fans found a secondary link, and this new dimaorg.info site would become the main hub for lore updates, building the world that the boys were about to drop on us. There were professedly random articles and images uploaded, all to be connected together in time, as well as letters written by someone named Clancy about his time in a hostile city called Dima. The most important thing, at least for this video, is the second item to drop on the website. A grainy and cropped image that identified something, someone, as a failed perimeter escape. Oh, this one doesn't really work when you spell it all out. This was a goddamn attack on the fanbase. The first direct challenge to the honorable badge that was FPE. Eventually, the singles and album revealed themselves to us. Trench told the story of a seemingly inescapable city, surrounded by high walls and ruled by 9 tyrannical bishops. The bishops rule with an iron fist, instilling their hijacked religion known as vialism onto its citizens, which has an end goal of making them take their own life. The story centers around Clancy, the one writing the letters, and his repeated escape attempts. Along the way, he's aided by others on the outside, the Bandidos, but each time he makes it out, he's dragged right back in. Failed perimeter escape is the label given to him and others who couldn't make it. The world of Trench is a sort of projection of Tyler's mental struggles. It takes the idea of a clash between Blurryface and Tyler and creates a universe out of it. Blurryface, the entity, has manifested into these 9 powerful and repressive autocrats, and Tyler plays the role of Clancy as a representation of his own battles against demons that are larger than he is. This is where the band's focus on community really comes into play. Thanks to their extremely personal connection with the fans, we can understand and empathize with what Clancy is going through. I mean, a lot of people really deeply resonate with what Clancy is going through. He directly represents the people who are struggling with mental issues, and even the people who have overcome their issues can see themselves in the Bandidos, helping other people find that same relief. Their iconic line, "We are 21 pilots and so are you."
We're 21 pilots and so are you. We'll see you next time.
We're 21 pilots and so are you. We'll see you next time. Is more than just a catchphrase. It's a representation of their thesis as a band. This is a roundabout way of saying, what happens to Clancy happens to us. Where before we wore FPE as a badge of honor for the clique that we associated ourselves with, it was now seen as a symbol of defeat. The darkness had taken this sign of hope and twisted it, purposefully and mockingly, to break our confidence. The letters FPE were literally crossed out on the front of the album cover. A statement was being made here. The few, the proud, and the emotional are the losing team. As I've hopefully made obvious by now, the letters FPE are recurrent in this multi-album story being told. Personally, I lose my shit every time it happens. The band has managed to, like VFD, sneak easy clues into their world that keep their audience far more engaged and excited about the mundane. I still remember when their 2021 album Scaled and Icy was announced, and the promotional poster for the livestream that was going to show off the album had this little badge on it that said Feature Performance Event. I got to hop right into a Discord chat with other clickies and speculate why that use of the letters was there. Had FPE been reclaimed again? Was the livestream fake? Had the Bishops hijacked the entire album? That last one turned out to be a yes. Whatever it was, we all knew it was a bad sign. With how much emotional tension had been placed on FPE already, it felt like our defeat when Clancy was in danger or failed. It also inspired us to do more, to find more, in support of him. I remember seeing this promotion and combing back through the Clancy letters, persistently rereading and analyzing them, looking for some sign of FPE or just some shred of a clue as to where Clancy's fate might lie. I know others that did the same, and there's an overwhelming pride to thinking that you and your peers are onto something big that no one else has noticed yet. I mean, it was almost all speculation, but still, you know, every small connection only made us that much more invested. The band had taken their already pretty close-knit community and made us even closer together by adding just this one small repeating clue. As the story continued, there were hints that the Bishops were making the letters commonplace in their nomenclature, almost taunting the citizens with the knowledge that it was theirs to use. In the music video for Backslide, from their 2024 album Clancy, keen-eyed fans might point out a sign on the front of the store at the beginning of the video that says food, patrol, etc. It's hard to accurately relay the significance of small things like this unless you're aware of how complex and full of extended metaphor the world of Trench is. On the surface, this just seems like a cheeky reference, and at the end of the day it probably is, but in a world where the prominent religion was appropriated and the people have no freedom, we can recognize this as the Bishops exerting more power. They do not want a reminder of rebellion to linger in their citizens, so they're eliminating any old meaning of the letters FPE. Citizens born after the most major escape attempts, who would have been too young to understand the rallying cries of the few, the proud, and the emotional, will instead internalize the letters as just some piece of product placement. Am I looking too much into this? I really can't overstate how insane it is piecing this together with my little online community. Something so small, so literally insignificant, never to be talked about again within the story, held so much meaning just by having 3 words that started with 3 specific letters. It drills a hole into your brain and sits there once you realize there's something more to be found. Nothing is ever a coincidence with Tyler Joseph, and the fact that the album Clancy ends with the lines,
"So few, so proud, so emotional. Hello, Clancy,"
only exemplifies what I mean. Like VFD, FPE is at the center of this world, the invisible glue that somehow holds everything together. It encourages you, entices you, begs you to look deeper. FPE, from the get-go, in every single instance and with every single meaning, has been about the community. The frantic putting together of clues, not just with myself, but with my people, the same people who were supporting Clancy in his fight against the Bishops. No one ever presented or revealed altogether what Failed Perimeter Escape or Feature Performance Event meant, but we as a collective were able to come together and figure it out. Like VFD, FPE is a code, one that only the clique, the FPE themselves, can recognize. When the album Clancy came out and the museums that they set up before the concerts were called the fan premiere exhibits, I got to wonder why, and how, and what the implications were on the story as a whole. How could a museum with 0 canon lore tie-ins be using this acronym as well? Maybe it was a canon lore tie-in. Maybe the Bishops were going so powerful that their power was seeping into the real world. Discussions on this topic led to many debates. I have my own theories. It's these little interpersonal moments, the ones that you can only share with the people who have taken the time to be in the know, that makes these repeated acronyms so special, so intriguing. It's not just a clue, it's a hidden clue. One that takes repeated context to positively register and appreciate, and one that feels so goddamn good to notice and to scream about. It's such a simple and effective way to add depth to your world building, even if that depth is just implied. VFD, the spy organization, does exist, and it's us, the select few who never needed the explanation. I was hanging out with my friends when 21 Pilots announced their new album, Breach, and none of them understood why I was freaking the hell out that the pre-orders for their vinyls were called the first pressing editions. And you know what? They don't need to understand. I know who knows. Thank you.
I